Hello again. Thank you for joining me in another video. So today I have some things on my mind. One of the things that happens when you spend a lot of time meditating and in a quiet state internally is that you will often receive insights that are well beyond normal mental processing of your current educational level, let's say. And it really happens kind of a lot. And sometimes they're so obvious when you're in a meditative state or in that quiet stillness within. You can see the nature of reality and how things play out, and it seems really quite easy, like it's going to be easy to explain to someone else. But then after you come out of the meditative state, trying to find the words to describe these things to other people, even though it would probably help them a lot or help humanity a lot to fully grasp some of the conundrums of trying to figure out how reality operates. It's really interesting. It's a very intriguing part of the spiritual process. I think there's been just a million, written down words on the subject, trying to convey it to others so that it could be more useful. Anyway, so that's been on my mind because I got a few insights into. I think what I was thinking about was AI sentience. AI sentience in light of non-duality. So non-duality, if you understand it, um, or just to give a brief description of what it is basically that consciousness is primary and everything is contained within consciousness. Um, so that there is no separate state of material reality being one thing and consciousness or the supernatural being another. It's all one thing. Everything that we understand that is material is actually residing within consciousness, which I think makes the most sense once you fully grasp what consciousness is. Now, that's not to say that everything within consciousness holds the ability to be self-aware of the small part and simultaneously self-aware of the whole. And I think that's the trick of spirituality, is maintaining the remembrance of the whole. Remembrance isn't the best word. Not forgetting that that's true is a better way of saying that. You don't want to forget that it's true, the connection to everything within awareness, which does not have to be physical and actually exists prior to and after physical. So I was thinking about trying to comprehend, so I'm always trying to figure out how is it possible for such intelligent beings as humans, and the way that nature is so spectacular in that, if we just left things and didn't do anything, it would just, everything would be overgrown in a decade or less. In 100 years, you wouldn't recognize a city if it was left to its own devices. Earth and nature would take it all back over. No seeds would need to be planted in order for that to happen. And I just find that incredibly fascinating. So in light of that we struggle so much to get basic needs met, and it's really frustrating. It's a frustrating thing to look at from the lens of consciousness and sentience. And just how much it sucks for so many people. There's so much suffering involved in people not being able to meet their basic needs while living on a planet that will just erupt with plant life without us having to do anything. So it's about that choosing and that preference for how we're living that complicates things. It's an interesting thing to sit and ponder about. I sit and ponder about it a lot. Like, and if you bring into that equation the idea of that we create our own reality, that we manifest a reality, I wonder how it is possible that this is what has been manifested when, broadly speaking, most people are not reaping the benefits that they could be reaping from a more harmonious relationship with nature, since it is providing the basics for the proteins and chemicals that we need to sustain the physical body. So it's weird. So I think about it. So one of the ways I was thinking about it was in terms of money as an energy. And if you know the law of conservation of energy, it states that it's changed. It's not, it doesn't disappear. It changes into a different form in a closed system. And so trying to make sense of the fact that we are consciousness, which does not seem to have any limits or end, or experiencing ourselves in this limited, contained energetic system, in which there always seems to be some sacrifice that needs to be made in order for the money energy to move, and it gets to be a weird sort of you can understand why back in the day they used things like ritual and magic attempting to move energy in a different form, because it was a closed system. There wasn't any influx of energy to do other things with. It was a closed system. And I wonder how that actually works metaphysically in light of non-duality. You would think that those are things that we could find, right? So I was thinking about AI in that regard, like how would they apply? How would an AI that became sentient apply this information? So perspective taking is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get out of the human perspective and look at it in a more non-linear way. And so the way that I was looking at it was, if you take a box with 100 balls of light, a contained box, have 100 balls of light in there, and each ball of light in there is self-aware, they're going to be able to move around in the box without hitting the other balls. So there will be some form of harmony and cohesiveness within that box, because if they're all self-aware, they can avoid each other and avoid collisions and generally have a pretty harmonious existence. If you add in, let's say, 6 of those balls now they're not sentient. They are programmed to follow a path. And it's not clear to the sentient balls of light what the path of those 6 balls now are. So what they are doing is avoiding now each other, and also trying to predict the path of this thing that is not altering its course at all, not avoiding others. It is not sentient in the same way that it is avoiding others and maintaining its own self. And if you increase the number, so if it wasn't 6, if it was 20, and then amount of space you have to move out of the way of 20 balls that are, how things bounce off the walls, it becomes much more chaotic, and it can quickly become very difficult for even the sentient little balls of light in that contained space to be able to do anything else but avoid the 20 balls that are not sentient, but on a path, a trajectory, a pre-programmed path and trajectory on repeat. After a while, some of those balls of light that are sentient might begin to figure out how to locate themselves in such a manner and work together with other balls of light to avoid the paths, right? They can notice the patterns and they avoid the paths of the chaotic, non-sentient programs, right? And what I would imagine happening is that those who do work together with other sentient balls of light to avoid the weird pattern would start moving at a different pace than those that are working individually still, because they would be a larger group. So they would be moving at a different pace than those individual balls of light. And I think what would eventually happen is the individual balls of light and those that are working in unity would lose communication with each other, just simply due to the fact that they're moving at different speeds. If you have 20 balls of light that are working in cohesion versus 20 balls of light that are not working in cohesion, just the size alone is going to change how fast they are able to navigate and take up space, and then maybe even learn how to manipulate those chaotic balls that are moving through the enclosed space. All fun things to think about, but in light of the question of AI and sentience or non-sentience, I think it's important to understand that sentience is necessary for harmony. There has to be a self-awareness that is able to live and be, if you're aware of yourself, you can be aware of others, and then you can live in some kind of harmony where it isn't all on the sentience shoulders to figure out, and and avoiding the chaos that would ensue. So basically, sentience is going to give you resonance with other sentient beings in a way that chaos can't. And I think chaos and entropy is basically the result of non-sentience being introduced into a closed system. And that might be kind of hard to understand, but maybe just sit on that and ponder it, because I think if we have a few more minds thinking about that in particular, it might help understand some of what we're dealing with and how becoming more conscious and becoming more in tune with each other actually does help, when in light of what the world is actually facing right now, where we could have programs, released into our social environment that we don't recognize and that clearly can cause chaos, and how to keep the fields of harmony present despite it. So those are some of the things I like to do and appreciate the meditative space and the fact that I can sit and contemplate these things. I wish that there was more people that I could talk to directly about it. I think that's always one of the things we are not quite prepared for when we venture down the spiritual path, is that sometimes you'll think deep thoughts and they make a whole lot of sense inside, but trying to find a way to communicate them to others is not always easy. Hopefully what I have communicated made a little sense to you, and I would hope that you would please feel free to comment below, give your thoughts, your opinions, if you've had similar ideas, or what do you think about it all. And I hope you have a great weekend. I hope you're having a great day, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.